is Kyle Moyes. This is my first Toastmasters. As a guest or just trying to find out what it's all about. I work for a company called Fifth Avenue Properties down the road, and am continually dealing with people, and thought to engage with you guys and see whether or not this was something that can sort of take us to the next level, or me specifically. Thank you.
Morning everyone, my name is Stuart Hunt. Also fairly new, I haven't been part of Toastmasters before. This is also something that I wanted to come and just see what it's all about. I'm in the advertising industry, specifically on the sales role, so also communicating and dealing with people on a regular basis. So I just thought it was definitely a way to improve my skills. So thanks so much for having me.
Hello everyone, my name is Sabrina without the S. This is my third or fourth visit here. I'm about to join Toastmasters. Yeah. But I'm still just checking the schedule, the one that that suits my schedule. So I'm that visitor that never goes away. Keep coming.
I'd just like to remind you while you're checking your schedule that we do have breakfast here.
Thank you.
Good morning everyone, my name is Tanya Langbein. I am a member of this club. I have been down with bronchitis all week, so I'm really pleased that I made it out of bed this morning to be here and enjoy the morning with you all.
We are too.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mina Sono. I'm a visitor. I came for the first time in January with my daughter, and this is my second visit.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gugu. This is also my second visit. In fact, I think we attended on the same day the first time round. I'm a financial advisor, and I'm here to expand my skills as well, my public speaking skills. And I'm really enjoying this class. I may join. Thank you.
Hello, morning everyone. I'm Lucinda, and I'm a visiting, what do you call it, a guest. And I just love this club. It's so much fun, and it's so great to be here. And thank you, and I look forward to a great meeting with you all.
Good morning everyone. I'm a visitor from Danefern Tigers. I'm brand new to Toastmasters. I'm a personal profiler and I work with people who want to become unstoppable. My name is Charlotte.
Morning everybody. Dr. Chair. My name is Fatima and I'm a visitor as well, and I'm also here for business purposes. I have a business consulting firm, so I'm trying to grow that, and I'm hoping this will assist me with skills to present. Thank you.
Good morning everybody. I discovered this morning that Tambu is a master of oxymorons because she's now labelled me Handsome Harold. I don't understand that.
I thought it was horrible Harold. According to you.
Any other labels you'd like to give? So, it's only because I'm normally the president that everybody labels me like that, but I'm used to that abuse. Let's carry on.
Hi everyone, my name is Adrian. I've been a Toastmaster here for just over a year now. Time really flies by. I'm the treasurer of the club. I was a retired minerals processing scientist. That was 5 years ago, and now I've got to change it. I now work for Hatch as a sort of independent sort of contractor. And now I've got to learn how to convince people that they've got to, being a researcher and changing to a different scenario where I've got to promote sales and things like that. So I've got to learn how to speak proper like.
Good morning everybody, I'm Jerome. I've been a member with this club since Feb last year, and my focus is purely just to improve my awareness in terms of how I present myself, and also to take up leadership roles, which I've sort of been reluctant to do in the past. Thank you.
joined this club in October 2018 and I feel like I've been here for 3 years already. I'm enjoying myself. I'm a grammarian today. Thank you.
Good morning everyone. I'm Rick Robenheim. I'm always tempted to say good evening because most of the clubs I visit meet in the evening, except for Woodmead Breakfast Club. I'm a member at what is now Mariswe Toastmasters, used to be UWP, until last Tuesday, until Tuesday the previous week. And I am your table topics master today.
Good morning everyone, I'm Judith Taylor. I'm also with Mariswe. I've been a Toastmaster, I discovered, since 2012.
Good morning, my name is Karen and I rejoined Toastmasters after many years of absence 2 weeks ago at Mariswe. I'm a property consultant and an Airbnb super host.
Hey.
Good morning. My name is Lynn Logie. I am the Vice President of Education for this club. I've been around for a year and am your R counter today. Thank you.
Hi there guys, my name is Ine. That will be Renee without the R. I joined Toast Masters in the last 2 weeks, and I would like to improve on my speech. I do have a stutter, and I am quite scared of talking as a result.
Morning everyone, my name is Ntati Sibilagazi. I'm a guest here, second time visiting the Boston Club. I'm here to learn to improve my public speaking skills, and yeah, my first session here was very nicely welcomed, and I'm happy to be here again.
Good morning everyone, my name is Oliswa. I am playing a role of a sergeant at arms today. I joined Toastmasters last year, October, and I am enjoying my time so far. Thank you.
Good morning everyone, my name is Hamza. The reason I came to Toastmasters is to become more confident and to gain leadership skills. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sophia. I'm a university student. This is my second time here at the Brighton Club, and I'm really hoping to let go of my clutch words within the next few weeks or months.
Good morning everybody, my name is Dino Lupini. I'll go with the jokes going around here. My name is Dino, the bug that saw. I've been part of Toastmasters now for close to 3 years, I think it was 2 or 3 years. It kind of flies by, honestly, but coming here every Saturday, you make the fun. I've got to talk about being busy. You just make the time to come to this club, because it's honestly, it's invigorating, inspirational, and you leave here energized. So I do recommend it to join the club. Cool. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Susan. I joined Toastmasters sometimes middle of last year. I joined because I had a speech that I had to deliver overseas last year, and the club was incredibly helpful, not just practicing, but I got a whole lot of mentoring and coaching, and it was just excellent. And now I come because sometimes I have time and I just love it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We have a wonderfully diverse group this morning. Thank you for joining us. I have to say, barely heard any of your introductions after Abrina, because I was busy thinking of a cool way to introduce myself, like Tambu without the M. No, it doesn't work. Oh, no, it doesn't work. I thought of that, but then my name doesn't end in an O, so I thought of Tambu without the O-R and O, and I was like, no, that doesn't work. Give me 2 weeks, I'll come back with a cool one. Moving on from that, guests and visitors, you might be seeing us with books. Don't worry, we don't take a reading break during the meeting. What we are doing today, later on, is we will be giving book reviews. Very short, 1 minute to 3 minute book reviews. A book you loved, a book you hated, a book you think should be burned. Anything that you are able to share with us. So I thought maybe I'd just give you a heads up so that as the meeting proceeds, you can start thinking of what book you might want to share about. 60 seconds only. If you'd like to add to that, you're absolutely welcome to join us in that. Next thing I'd like to talk about is program changes. Lynn, our Vice President for Education, do we have any program changes?
Just one. I will be the MR counter today.
Great. Thank you very much. And now I will hand over to the real president, Harold Robinson, for the business session. Please help me welcome Harold.
Not sure what the real president is. There's some people who don't think that Donald Trump is a real president. So first order of business today is something I've been planning all week. And I don't know how it's going to go. But we'll see. And some of you are going to say, this is not like Harold. You're welcome to say it. This is not like. What we're going to do is have an unveiling. So I'm going to ask you all to please stand up. If you thought Tambu was joking, let's see. Right. Okay. So you have to bear with me. This is just
So we waved our hands.
Okay. Told you it's just.
We marched along, and the people smiled as we sang our song, and the world was saved as they listened to the
about it because I think we ordered it about 2 years ago. At last we have it. So we have a club banner. And I have just satisfied a lust I've always wanted. Since I heard that song, I wanted to be a banner man, and today I had the chance. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
Now, Harold, we need ribbons to put on it.
One step at a time. I've just got them. Our next order of business is, I see we have a lot of guests here today and a lot of Toastmasters. So as is tradition, we're going to ask one of the guests just to give us a little talk about, in fact, we'll just ask them to give us their book review. So I'm going to choose a guest. Who's clever? Actually, I'm just joking. I won't. Oh, you got some But if you have that little funny feeling in your stomach, as I looked at you, that's quite natural when you're going to do public speaking, and when you come to Toastmasters, that's what you learn to handle, is that funny feeling in the stomach when you're going to speak. So that's my advertisement for Toastmasters today. We also have an induction in the business session, a new member who joined last night at about 9 o'clock, I believe. So, Hansa, please. Welcome. When a new member joins, it is traditional to induct them. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to read from a script. To make it easy, all he has to say is yes, but yes, loud enough for everybody. Yeah. Okay. And then afterwards, I'm going to ask club members also to commit to helping Hansa. So Hansa, membership in Toastmasters is a privilege. The only way to gain the benefits of our program is to actively participate. You, Hansa Lal, promise to be an active member of this club, to attend meetings regularly and prepare fully for your duties.
Yes.
You promise to prepare your speech to the best of your ability and in line with the Toastmasters International manuals.
Yes.
To prepare for and fulfill meeting assignments.
Yes.
To provide fellow members with helpful, constructive evaluations.
Yes.
To help the club maintain a positive, friendly environment necessary for all members to learn and grow.
Yes.
To serve as a club officer when called upon to do so.
Yes.
To treat our fellow club members and guests with respect and courtesy.
Yes.
To bring guests to club meetings so they can see the benefits Toastmasters membership offers.
Yes.
To adhere to the guidelines and rules for all Toastmasters programs.
Yes.
To maintain honesty and highly ethical standards during the conduct of all Toastmasters activities.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Could Bryanston Club members please stand? The rest may, if you're not a member of the club, you may remain seated. Did you hear his yes, by the way?
Yes.
So I'll expect a good one from you too. Do you, members of the Bryanston Breakfast Club Toastmasters, promise to support Hansa as he works in the Toastmasters program?
We do.
It's my pleasure to declare you inducted new member of Bryanston Toastmasters. Certificate.
Thank you.
Go take a photograph.
There we go.
How many photographs?
Lots. This is one cover, right?
We have a whole lot. Thank you, Elsa. That's the end of the business session. Madam President, now I'll go straight into the program while I'm here. Madam President is not listening to me. She's forgotten that she's a judge.
Selected hearings.
I'm your Toastmaster for today, and the theme for today, as you heard, was the Banner Man. And besides it being a nice piece of music that you heard, there's quite a history to banners, but you don't find a lot of descriptive history about banners in general. According to the South African Concise Oxford Dictionary, a banner is a long strip of cloth bearing a slogan or design. Another definition is a flag or pole used as a standard of a king, knight or army. And that's probably a clue as to the origins of the banner. And when you look at old movies or pictures or paintings of old armies, you always see someone carrying a banner. So, as you see, we now have a banner. We've had that one for a while, and now we've got our own personalized banner. We have a different meeting today. We don't have any prepared speeches, which we would normally have, and as a result, we don't have evaluations either. But we will still be doing table topics, and in a different meeting today, we're going to do book reports. So we've asked everybody to do a book report. If you didn't know about the book reports and you couldn't prepare one, not to worry, you don't have to do it, but if you would like to talk about a book that you've read and tell us about it, please feel welcome to do so. There's no strict format for it, there's no evaluations for it, but we will have a little prize for the best book evaluation. I'm Toastmaster today, but we have a number of role players who will assist with the meeting today. And I'd like to start with our timekeeper, Adrian. If you just tell us a bit about your role, please.
I look after this little light here. You've got 1 to 3 minutes to give your talk. After 2 minutes, you will see a green light go on. That means you've got 1 minute left. And then 30 seconds to go over the orange one on. And then, after your 3 minutes are up, the red one goes on. And then you need to come to an abrupt end. But you can go on a little bit. Okay.
Normally have half a minute.
Half a minute, and then we
throw you off.
Close you off.
Okay. And you'll be timing the table topics as well.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
We also have our table topics, and our table topics master today will be Rick. Rick, would you please just tell us about your role today?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Table topics is our impromptu speaking session. So if you think you've had an impromptu speech introducing yourself, you now get a chance to do a longer one of 1 to 2 minutes. What I will be doing is I will be looking for volunteers during the break to give us a speech. Broadly speaking on the subject of Charles Darwin, but I will explain a little bit later why and give you a more specific topic which you will be allowed to open unusually as soon as you get it, to give you a chance to prepare adequately for your speech. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
I look forward to that. Thank you very much, Rick. We also have grammar police, armed counter police, people who police our use of language. And the first one is our grammarian, Monica. Monica, would you like to tell us about your role today, please?
As a grammarian, it is my responsibility to pay close attention to all the speakers by listening carefully to the language usage. I'll take note of any misuse of the language as well as outstanding uses. The word of the day is transcend. It's on the wall. And the meaning of transcend is to pass beyond the limits of a category or conception, to be greater than, as in quality or intensity, to surpass, to exist above, independent of material experience or the universe. Please use it as a verb or adverb or as a noun, as an adjective, as a present, future, tense. We are encouraged to use it. And today I'm coming in style. I would like us to knock when someone uses transcend. I will give the word of the day report and grammatical usage of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. And our arc counter is lit. You describe the role.
Thank you. As the R counter, I will be recording and reporting later on the use of each and every filler word, so the likes of and so and like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's hope we can transcend those words today. We've already met Dina at registration, and we've met our sergeant today, this one, and we've met the acting president for today. So, could you just give the role players a round of applause? So if you think of the use of banners, the most used banners in the world are actually used in religious processions, would you believe? Especially in Europe, they are very popular there. The other popular place you see banners are trade union get-togethers. And then if you watch TV, if you watch cricket or rugby, you'll see sports people showing their banners, the spectators showing their banners. And then invariably as you drive down the road, you've got advertising banners. So very popular thing to use, I guess it's because you can just put on a piece of cloth and print and you have a banner. Right, we're going to go into our book reports, and I suggest the way that we run it is I'm going to ask for volunteers, and when we run out of volunteers, I will appoint people to do their book reports. Who would like to volunteer to go first? Right, Johan is going first, and then we'll take the next volunteer. Yes, and you can come up here too. Please welcome Johan for his
Thank you, horrible Harold.
Enemies like that, who needs friends?
I felt so guilty. Right, I'm reporting on a book called Fighter Pilot, written by, well, it's a biography about Robin Olds. He graduated from West Point before the Second World War. By the time he was commissioned, he was flying the very beautiful Mustang, North American Mustang. And at 22 he had already reached the rank of major. Robin Olds flew in the Second World War, he flew in the Korean War and in the Vietnamese War. Like a lot of these very brash fighter pilot people, he was very full of himself, but that's understandable. Part of the book that I really enjoyed was when he had reached the rank of general, went through all the ranks, colonel and then general. When he reached the rank of general, he became an inspector general of aircraft for the United States Air Force. So it was no longer the Army Air Force. But the one funny story, he went to this base, B-52 base. A B-52, an enormous aeroplane. And a B-52 base must have been enormous as well, like a small town. And he was very dissatisfied with the failure rate of engines being tested in the test facility. So he got hold of the colonel, who is the officer commanding the base. and he confronted him about this failure rate. And the colonel wouldn't believe it. So he said, right, let's get in your car and we'll go to your test facility. And the colonel had been on the base for 2 years. He didn't even know where it was. They get there, and he had the colonel walking up and down in this hangar, and he said, do you see anything wrong? I said, no. He said, you are at 130% staffed in your senior warrant officer ranks for technical officers. Said, let's go and find these guys. You don't see them anywhere. Anyway, eventually, Old said to this colonel, let's go over to the NCO's mess. In the United States services, they call it the NCO's club. There they all were at 11 o'clock in the morning, all drinking beer and having a wonderful time. Mr. The topic master. I mean, Mr. Toastmaster.
I'm sure if our pub opened here earlier, we would have beer earlier.
Oh, yes. I know some of us would.
Who's next? Ane, please welcome Ane.
My book review is on the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. They say that life will present you with a same problem until you either learn your lesson or you find a healthy way to deal with it. This is no different to love and relationships. I believe this book answers the primary question as to what happens to love after marriage. Media has sensationalized love, leading us to believe that we need to be high from that in-love feeling. But science has proven that the euphoria produced by the dopamine hormone will only last for 18 to 24 months. This feeling cannot be sustained. Once the experience of falling in love has run its course, some couples believe that they have one of only 2 options. Resign themselves to a life of misery or jump ship. This book suggests a third and better alternative. And that is to recognize the in-love experience for what it really is and to transcend into real life. This kind of love requires effort and discipline. It's the choice to spend energy on your partner's happiness. And in turn, this will fill your own love tank. And when your love tank is full, the whole world looks bright and you will reach your highest potential in life. After extensive research, the love languages have been summarized as words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Discovering the primary love language of your spouse is important if you want to fill their love tank, but it's as important to understand your own. This book takes you through a journey of self-discovery and understanding. Love is the choice and the world is a better place
when you feel as though you can move mountains. I highly recommend this book.
Oh, well done.
I think mine euphoria went some time ago. Now I know why. It's only 18 to 24 months.
I'm on that cusp right now.
I know. Next volunteer, Cara. Please welcome Cara.
Those who have met me will quickly tell you that I am over the top passionate about Airbnb. Mr. Toastmaster and new Saturday morning friends, it is therefore no surprise that my book review is on a book written about Airbnb. It's written by a gentleman called, I want to say Brad Pitt, but it's not Pitt, it reminds me of Pip, which reminds me of Stone. His name's Brad Stone. And the book is called The Upstarts, and it's written about the upstart of Airbnb and Uber, and the differences between the challenges, the similarities of the challenges they faced, and the differences of those two companies' CEOs. But it also goes into detail about Silicon Valley, that's Northern California, and the meritocracy, Madam Grammarian, that Silicon Valley promotes in the oddest form. It inspires the ambitious to succeed, and it totally disregards whatever happens to everybody else. It's a winner takes it all, loser gets nothing world, where all these high-tech companies are battling it out in the battlefields with venture capitalists chasing money, money, money. And Uber and Airbnb started after the invention of the smartphone, because how would you have used Uber with that old Nokia where you had to press the number 1 button 3 times to get a C and once to get an A? So it is thank you to the smartphone that we have these conveniences today, like Uber and Airbnb. And what I love about this book is we look at Airbnb and Uber today and we think, oh, it's so easy. Open your app, book, done. But we have no idea the effort that went into and the challenges that these companies faced. And how they both, Madam Grammarian, transcended beyond these challenges to bring us what we have today. The founder of Uber, Travis, I have trouble remembering his surname, Kalanick, he was known as entrepreneurial sociopath, calculating, charming, risk taker, stops at nothing. Where the Airbnb CEO, Brian Chesky, is the complete opposite. They call him the prophet of new startup religion. And his company has these annual events, what we call year-end functions, where he has huge tents and A-list entertainers coming to thank his staff for all the efforts they have put in. And I'd love to tell you more about this book, but my time is up.
So you can go to Airbnb and then you can watch Netflix as well.
Oh, yeah.
I need to get this done soon before my voice entirely disappears, I think. Little mind, big mind, and the glass elevator. Musto Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, visitors and guests. The book I'm going to review is called The Inside Out Revolution. It is described as the only thing you need to know to change your life forever. And it's written by Michael Neal. The little mind is the ego mind. That's the self-centered me. The big shot. The only thing in the world that is worth looking at in the mirror is me. The big mind is the divine mind, the universal mind, which is the intelligence of literally all things in this world and any world. That is the mind you should be looking for. That is the mind that has the power to guide you through life. The book suggests that most of us are stuck in some version of the little mind. And the book goes on to challenge us to embrace, expand and embrace the wonders of the big mind, to transcend from the little mind to the big mind. Michael Neal goes on to suggest that we embrace this transcending using an analogy of the glass elevator. He suggests that you get into a glass elevator that is hanging on the outside of the tallest building you can imagine. You're on the ground floor, and as you step into this elevator, it is an elevator of consciousness, perspective, thought, and understanding. Consciousness, perspective, thought, and understanding. You are on the ground floor, and as you look out, you can see what is immediately ahead of you. You push penthouse, and you start rising. As you get to about the 10th floor, you're in the exact same spot, but your elevation is much higher. And you're on the exact same spot, but you can see far more than what you did when you were on the ground floor. You can see around what you initially saw on the ground floor. And as you rise to the penthouse, as you get right to the top, consciousness, thought, perspective, understanding has changed dramatically as you can see an entire horizon. The challenge of the book is to move from the little mind that most of us are stuck in far too often to the wonders of the big mind, where your consciousness, thought, perspective, and understanding will change materially. I recommend the book enormously, and to be honest, if anything can help us change our life forever to a better state, I suggest you try it. Thank you.
Did you say what happens if the elevator gets stuck?
All comes crashing down.
Next volunteer, Susan. Please welcome Susan.
I was going to go last, but having heard what Tanya said, I thought I must go next. So this book is the opposite. It's not going from down up, but it's going from where we are now to deep down. So, you know, some books, we read them and some of them we like skim through, but others we read every word. Now, this book is one of those books that if one has to work it, and one works it with one's blood, tears, sweat, and hopefully some laughter. And when one works this book, then it kind of blooms inside of you. And as a result, hopefully, one blooms from within after reading this book. So, I grew up in a home that gave me instructions on how to do life. And it gave me instructions on a whole lot of topics or a whole lot of things in life. And life was going relatively well until it wasn't. And when it wasn't, I love reading and I love books. So I happened to come across this book, and it was many, many years back. And this book, I thought, because clearly what happened at home, I was given this set of instructions, or the map road to life, and that didn't work very well. So I hope this book will be a better instruction. So I started reading it, and it was too difficult. I didn't understand it, and I had to put it down. And I put it down for years and years and years, until I started studying one of my specialities, and then I started understanding the book. So the title of this book is Women Who Run with the Wolves, and maybe some of you have heard it or heard about it. And it's been written by a Jungian analyst called Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And when I originally picked it up, I said, what, woman running with a wolf? I mean, I know women, I know wolves a little bit. I know wolves are like, they smart, they tough, and they're also really not tame, but women, you know, we can be smart, we can be tough, but we are so tame. So this was now the instructions. Now this book is about fairy tales, and I want to just quote C.G. Lewis, who wrote the articles about the Chronicles of Narnia, and he said, hopefully one day you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again. So I will just tell you a little bit about, let's say, maybe one fairy tale. The one fairy tale deals with is how to deal with an inner critic, but it really is a fairy tale, and you have to read it between the lines. So I want to just finish by saying to you that I'm extremely grateful for books like this, because it's not just a book, it's almost like, really, it's like an instruction manual and a map. And I would encourage you, if you want to learn a little bit, because the essence of the book is how to contact the wild woman within. And it's for men and women, and she lives deep down inside, I'm sure, under the ground of the elevator. Thank you.
It's quite amazing sometimes. You get books like that you just put them off for years and years. And when you do get to read it, you wonder why you didn't read it before. Next volunteer is Judith.
Quite a long way these days. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, visitors and guests, I want to speak about a book that I've read to the end over 10 times. I've also seen both the Russian film of it and the British film. The Russian film takes 2 days. It's 8 hours long. The book is Leo Tolstoy's Война и мир, War and Peace, which takes us through the story of the Napoleonic invasion of Russia. And the 1812 overture celebrates the Russian victory. That was written by Tchaikovsky. But it follows the story of Pierre Bezukhov and Natasha Rostov. They go through a tremendous transformation during the book story. You learn about how dreadful the war is. The passage on the Battle of Austerlitz is searing because Prince Andrei gets fatally wounded, but he doesn't die immediately. He continues for some months. And Natasha was in love with him, but unfortunately she had a paddy and ran away with a really odd seducer. So she couldn't marry Prince Andrei, and she and Pierre worked in the medical side, looking after those who've been injured at Austerlitz. And after Moscow's fallen, and then they turn the war around and start chasing the French out, Pierre and Natasha overcome and transcend all the problems they are confronted with. And the book ends up with their marriage. After which, Natasha becomes a very proper matron and stops her singing and stops her music and just has children. And Pierre becomes an upholder of the royalty. It's almost as if he didn't learn from what he was doing, that there was another way. Mr. Toastmaster.
Real classic, that one. Such a thick book, I'm surprised the film was only 8 hours. Our next volunteer was Charlotte. Please welcome Charlotte.
Can I ask everyone to please stand up? Step behind your chair. To transcend your reality for a moment, please would you close your eyes? Do not touch the chair. Stand very still. Imagine you are a little bunny rabbit. Take a deep breath. You are a toy. You may not move. If you feel you would like to open your eyes, you're welcome to open your eyes. Imagine being on the shelf in the room as a fluffy bunny rabbit. Imagine longing to be loved and touched and cuddled. Imagine desiring love. Imagine wanting to be real, being able to move. Every single part of you being loved until there is nothing left of you except your heart. Imagine being chosen to be loved for the night by your dearest, beautiful human. And the excitement as you transcend the shelf onto the bed, to be loved, to be hugged, to be wanted, to be more real than standing on your shelf. Opening your eyes gently, feel the love, that you can put your arms around each other, one arm around the other arm, and love yourself and feel the realness that is within each of you. It does not take somebody outside of us to love us. It takes us to love ourselves. Marjorie Williams, the Velveteen Rabbit. I read it sitting over there. Thank you.
Well done.
What's to come up next one? Is that a yes? Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte. Please welcome Lynn to the front.
standard 8 to the age of 15, I recall awareness of my starting to question some things that I had until then accepted. In my early 20s, I read Celestine Prophecy, which provides 9 key insights to life, and that set me off on a renewed path of curiosity. In early 2011, at 39 years of age, I was introduced to a philosopher. Swami, now 92 years of age, is an eminent philosopher and advocate of a philosophy called Vedanta, which originates in India. He dedicated his life to studying, researching, and sharing about Vedanta, and has translated its very subtle texts into techniques for everyday living. The Fall of the Human Intellect is the first in his series of books about the subject. Each and every one of us experience agitation, stress, anxiety every day to some extent. The reason for this is that we allow our emotional mind, our likes, our dislikes, our preferences to govern the process of thought and action. We are victims of our preferences, and where not met, we experience even further agitation. As we think and act, we're very often not fully present because we're thinking about the unkind thing Sarah said to us yesterday, or the presentation we're uncomfortable about that's happening next week, Wednesday. Why does quality thought and action matter? Because cause and effect, action and consequence, I think, a universal law that cannot be avoided. Simply do whatever you dig. But the sooner you understand that there is a real consequence to your every action and practice accordingly, the lighter your life will become. How do we know if we're making bad choices? If after an action you have a sense of agitation, it's very likely that your action wasn't the best. You could have chosen. It asks that you engage 3 C's: concentration, consistency, and cooperation. The first 2 are fairly self-explanatory. Cooperation because each of us is a spoke in the same wheel of life. I love this analogy that compares us to our bank balances. My bank balance is 342 Rand. It is a direct result of all my debits and credits. I too, as an individual, have a total. I am the sum of all my past and all my paths, all my debits and credits. Imagine if that showed on my forehead and that I was 38 and you were 425. How comfortable would you be around revealing that so obviously? Did I like the book? I think that every human being should have access to these principles. You get what you deserve, not what you desire. That is my daily guide and my lighthouse through my every storm. Thank you. The Fall of the Human Intellect.
And what was it about? Rick?
What was what?
Philosophy.
The philosophy is Vedanta.
Vedanta.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Velveteen Rabbit to Vedanta. Thank you. Next volunteer. Lucinda. Please welcome Lucinda.
Where you going to throw your prize?
Toastmaster for the Toastmasters and guests. Aha moment. I don't like reading, promise. But what I can say about books, the light's on red.
Oh, sorry.
What I can say about books, for sure, is they hold a lot of wisdom and gold.
It's something that we can learn from. And you've got to have appreciation for the people that write books. The amount of time that goes into it, and the amount of pressure and stress they go into getting it published, and eventually getting the first person to even buy their book. So you've got to have a little bit of appreciation for the authors who write books. And certainly the biggest thing is, like we're doing today, is we are sharing insights and wisdom with each other. And that certainly is a very big thing. So when I got this task of coming to the club, I sat with a lot of books. This book, I've already dealt with the club. I gave a speech on Live It, Love It, Sell It. Second book pressed me hugely, The Soul of Money, Lynn Twist. She was the founder of the Famine Project in the United States. Third coming up, Talk Like TED. This book makes me smile. I love this book, especially what to do at TEDx. My two favorite ever books in business, The Tipping Point and Contagious. These made a huge difference in my marketing strategies and my business. And with Shauna Dick, The Velveteen Rabbit. Love the book. But for today, I'm going to focus on a book called Life Lessons. This is a book that is written by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and is co-written by David Kessler. In the 1980s, don't say that too loudly, I was studying at university and I was studying psychology. And the thing is, the person impressed the most upon me as a student was Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Her whole theory about death and dying. And because I was studying sports psychology at the time, I used that in my final thesis. I used that work very, very strongly about the termination of sports athletes, dancers, whatever, they go through the death process. Now, this is going now into her latter years. She focused on death and dying the whole way through her life. And now she's starting to die. She's really ill. She becomes invalid. And now she realizes that, hold on a minute, there's life. She's missed something. She's focused her entire life on death, but she's never thought about living. And now that she's dying and she's trapped in her body, she now works out the most important thing in her life. What is the number one life lesson? Anyone like to guess? Unconditional love. Her biggest life lesson that she came on this earth to learn was unconditional love. And that is how important it is. That we are here to grow, to learn, to evolve, and transcend. We are not meant to have a menial life. We are meant to be exceptional beings. And as with Toastmasters, everyone sitting here wants to be better. They want to improve. And they want to evolve. They want to transcend what others can't do. And that is what her book is all about. The lessons of life. My time is up. And remember the book, Life Lessons, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Nice, we have some wheels, I'm glad you only did one book.
Yeah.
Gugu, I see you volunteering.
Yes.
Please welcome Gugu.
Lights.
Camera.
Oh.
Right, I'm ready. No, I'm not.
Morning, everybody. I had no idea that we had to prepare a book review this morning, but I am definitely going to attempt to give it my big shot. A few years ago, I found myself at a crossroads in my life, and I didn't know what to do. I was introduced to a book by a very famous author called Paulo Coelho, you may have read it, The Alchemist, which absolutely transcended beyond my expectations. After reading the book, I knew for sure what I had to do, and that was to go with it. The book is set in Andalusia, and it's about a young shepherd boy who has a recurring dream. And after he's had this dream, he has it interpreted, and it transpires that he now has to travel to Africa to go find a treasure in the Egyptian pyramids. It takes him through a series of adventures, encounters a few setbacks, and comes full circle and actually discovers that what he was looking for was actually right underneath his nose. And that was the biggest lesson for me. The biggest quote that comes from that book is, when you want something bad enough, all of the universe conspires to make it happen. And if you haven't read that book, I definitely encourage you
So you didn't know and you still did book reviews, so thank you very much for that. Nice. We have to explain. Who had their hand up? I think.
Me.
Adrian?
I'll give you time for I've got to go.
Yeah, the problem with being a timekeeper is that you pay attention to the speaker and not the time.
Please welcome Adrian. Do my banner act. Thank you.
Now the title of the book that I want to talk about is called Brief Answers to the Big Questions. And it's by a guy called Stephen Hawking. Probably know all about him. He's a guy who had this motor neuron disease. But he certainly is a great inspiration to me. You know, I started off life in my studies to become a scientist, and I was involved in fundamental physics research until the age of 26, where I thought all this stuff was very difficult, and so I went into mining activities. But this book, amazing book, and a book that I think you should all read. It was written posthumously. He died about a year ago, and if he was alive today, he would be a couple of years older than me. Now, I've read a lot of his other books as well, A Brief History of Time, an illustrated brief history of time. The universe in a nutshell. And I think we all want to know about some of these big questions. And the book has, I think it's about 12 chapters. And the first chapter is there a God? So this is where I may get on touchy grounds. But he's very adamant to say that he was not about trying to prove or disprove the existence of God. And he was effectively saying that my love for understanding how the universe works is good enough for me. So he wasn't trying to prove or disprove anything there at all. And he just wanted to get a rational framework how the world works. And I have the same kind of curiosity as well as to what makes things tick. It's all mundane stuff. I want to know how grinding mill ticks, how stuff comes out smaller than to quantify all those kind of effects. But I do ask those big questions. Is there a God? And I do believe in a God, but a God that transcends all understanding. Now, if you want to get the answers to the big questions, you've got to know what the big questions are. So I'll just read out those big questions. Other than, is there a God? Is there intelligent life in the universe? Anybody met any extraterrestrial people? Can we predict the future? What is inside a black hole? A black hole is basically a big sun that's collapsed on itself, and nobody understands it really, but there's got theories about it. Is time travel possible? Will we survive on Earth? Should we colonize space? Will artificial intelligence outsmart us? How do we shape the future? And if you want answers to those big questions, get yourself a copy of this book. Thank you.
Well, when I consider those questions, I don't think there's any intelligence in my universe. Rick, you got your hand up. Please welcome Rick.
Harold, you're doing this quarter 5 times now. For me, next. After Rick.
scientist, I also talk about a book on science. And thinking of Judith's book, it is said that Leo Tolstoy is the only person who's ever finished War and Peace. But Judith might be an exception. The book I want to talk about, I haven't finished yet, and this is not surprising because it's over 460 pages long. It was published in 1859 and is regarded as one of the most influential books in science. Here's the frontispiece of it. It's called On the Origin of Species by a gentleman called Charles Darwin. And that's its short title. The long title is 21 words. It's On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Preservation of the Favoured Races in the Struggle for Life. Which means he almost managed to cram the main message of the book into the title. This is, of course, the book that brought the idea of evolution to the world. And it gave a natural explanation to something that previously had been the preserve of mythology and religion, all these different explanations of how things came to be, and this was at last a foundation based on evidence, the evidence that he found in his 5-year voyage around the world on HMS Beagle, for the way that species change over time and develop into other species. This book is available free of charge on Google Books, and if you would like to get, in the words of the author, the concept of evolution, I would recommend that you read this book. Toastmaster.
Hi.
Can I
Did Charles Darwin finish that book?
Finish the title, yeah.
Right. Well, we'll have to have Mina. Please welcome Mina. I'm sorry for ignoring you.
No, it's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The book that I'm going to talk about is The 4 Agreements, written by Don Miguel Ruiz. I highly recommend you to read this book. I use it as my second Bible. If I've had a lousy day at work, I read this book. So I can say that if you want to transcend your life from ordinary to extraordinary, you need to read this book. Not only read, you need to live by the 4 agreements that are in this book. So the first agreement, it's self-explanatory. The first agreement says, be impeccable with your word. So basically, I have also seen that according to this Toastmasters, one of your values is integrity. So it says basically, speak with integrity. Use your words in a positive way. Don't use your words to gossip about others. And people that are successful are people that are impeccable. By being impeccable, you will transcend your life to an extraordinary life. The second agreement says, don't take anything personally. So it's just like that. If people say you are a bad person, you know the reality. You're not bad. So don't take it personal. It's how they project you, but you know who you are. The third agreement says, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions, to seek clarity, and understand what others meant, maybe in a meeting. And then the fourth agreement says, always do your best. In whatever situation that you find yourself in, do your best. Ladies and gentlemen, I can say that if you want your life to transcend from being ordinary to extraordinary, use these agreements to your advantage. Thank you.
I won't take it personally when Johan insults me in the future. Next volunteer, Dino.
Mr. Toastmaster. So, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Well, we've got my author, Mr. Philip Knight, is running, getting out into the road. Once he starts hitting the road with his tackies, gets past that sound of, and all of a sudden he transcends into this natural flow, and he's off. And the book, Shoe Dog, is a memoir of Philip Knight, the CEO of Nike, and the way that he creates Blue Label, or we would like to know it as Nike. Yeah, the way that he actually creates this company. And he has this passion of running scattered throughout the entire book. The characters that he captures within this, in his memoir, basically just builds on that passion of running. So the characters that he has are people that have very similar values to himself, that they are passionate about running. They're passionate about not only the activity, but the pure enjoyment or the competition of getting out into the field. And there's a beautiful little quote that I'm going to mess up, but he talks about how when he started up Nike, whilst he's busy creating Nike, what the emotion that he wants his employees to have is that split moment just before you cross that finish line, you see your competitor next to you. That pure adrenaline of that extra push to get your chest past that line. He kind of encapsulates it in the book. So it's a book that is full of emotion and a constant passion for his company. So yes, we know it as a massive corporation that sells shoes. But when you start reading the book, it's actually about that emotion that he's the reason why he started the company was his passion for shoes. And so yes, he started the company because he had a passion for shoes, but he grew it to this multi-corporation because of that. He wanted to be past that finish line first, and there are villains or competitors in the book that he talks about, like the Marlboro Man and his Japanese counterpart. But it is So yes, he talks about those villains, because you have to have for every good book you have to have villains. And he talks about how he overcomes those troubles. So this is a really good book that I recommend. It talks about life, business, and the spiritual journey. And every aspect of the book, so his characters in the book just build up on that fashion. So I really do recommend it. And one of the main things I took out of it is never quit. If you start with something, you're really passionate about something, people are going to try and push you off your path. Just never quit.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Certainly that is one of the most recognizable brands, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just do it, tick.
Swoosh.
Tambu, I think you had your hand up next.
I did, in the hopes that that was the last person.
Please welcome Tambu.
The Anatomy of Peace. A book that transcends time, culture, and gender. It's written by the Arbinger Institute. Corey is a teenager. He's just spent the past year in jail for a drug conviction. 3 months after his release, he's arrested again for stealing $1,000 worth of prescription drugs. His father, Lou Herbert, is a war veteran who's better known as Hellfire Herbert from the Vietnam War. And he's bitterly disappointed in his son and royally pissed by his own words. His mother, overlooked as usual. Her name is Carol. The three of them find themselves in one place, Camp Moria. It's a rehabilitation center. It's run by an Arab immigrant from Jerusalem and an Israeli. Muslim, Jew, running the same camp. That's not the only twist in the book. The thing is, the drug addicts and their parents or guardians both have to attend rehabilitation. The thinking behind it is that if you rehabilitate the drug addict and they go back home to the same environment that remains unchanged, they will relapse. So the book is about how to walk through personal change, but also how to support others through their personal change with a heart of peace, and how to maintain a heart of peace, even when those around you are not the way you expect them to be. Before I spoil the entire book for you, I want to leave you with 2 quotes that triggered my journey to change when I started reading this book. You'll find them right in the beginning of the book. The one quote that got me thinking says, For many problems in life, solutions will have to be deeper than strategies of discipline or correction. The second one was, we are all surrounded by other autonomous people who don't always behave as we would like. The book takes us through how not to box people in our idea of how we think they should behave, and how to relate to people on their own ground, and to support them in change and maintain our positive change. Thank you.
Break. Time.
How are we for time?
Over. In the bathroom.
10 minutes over.
Yeah.
We had enough book reviews. Right. Who wanted to give another one? Anybody dying to give their book review? Sophie, you want to give a book review?
It'll be like 1 minute, I promise.
Sophie,
Hello everyone, so to keep it short and sweet, my book that I'm currently reading, which I have not finished yet, is called The Slight Edge by John Olson. And it's very problematic in that it might offend some of you with all the motivational books, but it's also great that it's not one of those books where in scientific terms you reach a goal quickly through a quantum leap. It's something that you like sorry, if you have a goal long term, you can achieve that by every day working on optimism and focusing on the little actions every day that create that slight edge to give you that motivation to do things better, to achieve it. And you don't really notice these small things while you're actively doing it in the present, but in future when you look back and you see how each action you took actually made a huge impact to lead you to where you are. So one of the quotes that really stood out for me was the things you do every single day, the things that you don't look too dramatic, you don't even look like that don't even look like they matter, do matter. They're not only that they not only make a difference, they make all the difference. So the point is to achieve a slight edge on a daily basis and not focus on the long run and be distracted by anxiety and stress and failure. It's about trying to achieve success in the small little things every day. Thank you.
how many more book reviews are there?
I'm reading another book. Halfway through, I would like to talk about it.
The second book you've read, eh? Wow.
The second one this year, guys. Pretty good.
We're going to ask you to vote for the best book review, best speech, but I'm going to read through them. I'll do it twice. I'll read it first with the name and the name of the book if I can remember, and then I'll just go through the names. And then I'm going to ask you to take one of those sheets. I'm going to ask you to put in 3 names because there's so many people. I think we can have 3, first, second, and third. If you haven't got a slip, I see Jerome is handing them up. So let me just go through them. Johan with Fighter Pilot by Robin Olds. Ane with 5 Love Languages by Guy Chapman. Corin with The Upstarts by Brad Stone. Tanya, The Inside Out Revolution by Michael Neal. Susan, what was it? Running with Wolves. Women running with Wolves. By who?
By Larissa Pinkola.
Larissa. Judith, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Charlotte, Velveteen Rabbit by Marjorie Williams. Marjorie Williams, thank you. Lynn, The Rise and Fall of Human Intellect.
Not the rise, just the fall.
That was the rise, you were the fall.
Okay. Who is it by?
Oh, his name is Mr. Partha Sarathi. Don't worry to write that down. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Lucinda, Life Lessons, Elizabeth Kugler-Ross, and another co-writer. Gugu was The Alchemist. I can't remember the author. Adrian, Brief Answers to the Big Questions by Stephen Hawking. Rick, On the Origins of Species by Charles Darwin. Mina, Four Agreements, Don Miguel. Dino, Shoe Dog, Philip Knight. Tambu, The Anatomy of Peace by the Arbinger Institute. And then Sophie, The Slight Edge by John Elton.
Sorry, it's Jeff also.
Jeff Elton, thank you. Sorry about that. So I'll just go through the names. There's Johan, Arne, Karen, Tanya, Susan, Judith, Charlotte, Lynn, Lucinda, Gugu, Adrian, Rick, Nina, Dino, Tambu, and Sophie. I've got 80% of those right. You can give me a hand for that. You can write down 3 names. Thank you, Sergeant, for collecting those. Yeah, it hasn't been collected. Just hold it up, Sergeant.
Transcend to the ladies' room. Just being my head's getting a little bit light right now. I need a cigarette or something.
Has everybody got their vote in? Thank you very much. So, at last we reach our break. What is the time now, please?
10:54.
5 to 11. So, shall we meet again? We only have table topics to do after the break. We don't have an evaluation session. So we can take a 15-minute break. So 11:10 we start? Yep. Everybody happy with that? Let's take a break.
Somebody was trying to phone me in the background. I'm not very good on
All of them, I thought. Oh, I'll be back. Oh, I'll be back.
Yeah. Yeah, the notes and everything. That's good. Yeah, got enough of fun. So do I, by the way.
Point I have on my list for serious.
Agency for girls whiskey. That's the reason why
What?
back to being a medical director. I have my media agency. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a friend of mine, Charlotte Bennett. It was always about passion for
I've got to read the tipping point. It's been on my list for such a long time.
I did actually this club, actually a speech the other day, one of my wonders at the time. I actually did it a little bit, but it's no, I just bought them at just I knew nobody else was bringing them. Okay, oh no, what better?
Now I can't get it either. Merit. Meritocracy. Meritocracy. Well, I mean, those with merit will be given power. Those with merit have power.
You just got in that bottle of meritocracy.
And you're not. Sorry. Wouldn't mind. Does that mean I'm going first? Can I open it? I'll just dial in somewhere. Good one. What topics your mind
Oh wow.
Yeah, you talk for 2 minutes.
My
Where's our yoga friend today?
I want to talk about my experience with Ben. Yeah, it's I think I'll touch on that. I'll just stick to the challenge. I want you to be talking, like, tell me something. So it's what I struggle with is that so many things pop into my mind. And what I do is I kind of want to mention everything at the same time.
And Darwin was notable for, as I mentioned in my book review, changing the face of science. And he did it almost accidentally. He trained as a geologist and he had an interest in theology. And then he took this opportunity to be the naturalist aboard the HMS Beagle, which did a almost 5-year navigation around the world, visiting various places, taking readings, and he picked up samples. He visited interesting places like the Galapagos Islands, where he saw how different species of finch had developed different beaks depending on the type of things they ate. And these were all finches, but they had developed in different directions because they could find a niche that suited them. And out of this he evolved the theory of evolution by natural selection. He was very reluctant to publish this because his findings contradicted the handed-down wisdom of the age that the Earth was something like 6,000 years old and that everything had been created in one amazing, transcendent creation. Eventually it was because another gentleman, George Wallace, was about to publish on the same topic that he did publish his tome, for which he is remembered. And this transformed the natural sciences. It took many years for it to be accepted. In fact, into the 20th century, when genetics became more of a science, and it was shown how we actually all are related to other creatures through genetics. So many of the things that he thought about were groundbreaking. Now, we forget that behind that picture of an old man with a long white beard, I don't rival him yet, there was a human being. So I thought we could take incidents from the life of Charles Darwin in memory of his 210th anniversary of his birth, and perhaps personalize them to people who are willing to give table topics today. So, table topics, as you probably know, those who have been before, you give a 1 to 2 minute speech on the topic that you're given. Our timekeeper will give you a green light on 1 minute, an amber light on 1.5 minutes, a red light on 2 minutes, at which point you have a maximum of 30 seconds to wind up before we start getting objectionable. Our first speaker is Charlotte Wignaert. Charlotte, if you could join me at the front, please. And Charlotte's topic is as follows. Charles Darwin was born on 12th of February 1809, 210 years ago. Charlotte, what would you like to be remembered for, 210 years after your birth. Charlotte.
Please would you all diarise this date, the 6th of September, please write it down, the 6th of September, 2175. Because if you're lucky enough to be alive, you'll remember me. What do I want to be remembered as? I have gone through my whole life zero-basing, in the last 7 years, zero-basing my thinking process, zero-basing mindsets, learning to distinguish between the two, understanding what it was, who I was, how I'm going to be, to shift and change. What do I want to be remembered as? The person who never ever gave up on herself, who never gave up on everyone around her, the person who saw way beyond the surface of every single one of you, the person who spoke to soul, the person who ignites soul. I went through a severe burnout where I had no choice but to stop my life again. It was not a comfortable place to be. And at a certain age in a woman's life, hormones kick in, and oh my word, it just gets 10 times worse. So for every single one of you sitting around the table, choose what you want to be remembered in 210 years' time. Because every single one of you here is here for a purpose. Every single one of you has got a story in here that is waiting to come out. Every single one of you has got something exhilarating inside of you, waiting, just waiting to be birthed. And I work with people who want to become unstoppable. So if you'd like to be unstoppable, as I'm going to be remembered in 210 years' time, I hope to see you there.
Thank you, Charlotte. As I mentioned, Darwin sailed around the world for nearly 5 years, which brings us to the theme of travel. So if Dino, if you could join me at the front, please. Dino, tell us about your travels and how they've affected you. Dino McGee.
Thank you, Rick. Well, I'm going to be telling you about a travel that I did on a boat, and I'm not going to say how it has affected me, but you'll understand shortly. So in 2017, I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to travel with my in-laws and my beautiful wife to Northern America. We catched a MSC cruise, and we left from Jersey, and we sailed up just along the coastline, stopping off at the major ports to Boston, and the highest point we got to Canada. Can't remember the place right now, but a very memorable place was in the American state of Maine. All the names are eluding me. It was a 3-week trip with all-inclusive. As I don't know if anybody's actually been on a cruise before, it is an amazing experience. I do recommend it if you've got a family that ranges from a 7-month-old to a 80-year-old. There was 10 of us on a boat where everyone was taken for. Everyone had an amazing time. And that was quite an absolutely beautiful trip because I got time to spend time with my in-laws. My father-in-law being an avid birder. So you speak about the different types of finches. He pointed them out. And over the years I've actually become appreciative of those, of that, the small little changes within the evolutions of the birds. And then on the other extreme I had my mother-in-law, a very passionate Greek lady I'm not going to say anything more because this is going to be on YouTube. I can just tell you now, from a point of view of, if you want to have a relaxing trip, this trip was 3 weeks long, and generally if you go on holiday, I don't know with you guys, after 2 weeks I get a little bit agitated. I want to get home, I want to get back into my routine. After cruising for 3 weeks, I got home and I was like, wow, I can leave right now and go back on another cruise. So, try it out.
The ship on which Darwin sailed around the world was called the HMS Beagle. A beagle is a kind of dog. If the picture comes up for you of a dog frantically paddling its way around the world, that seems rather inappropriate. Maybe have the light off.
Oh.
I'll ask Tom Bugomu to join me at the front, please. And I'd like Tombu to tell us about something she found that was very inappropriately named. Tombu.
Thank you, Mr. Tapakmaster. There are some people in this world that should not be allowed to name things. Like the person who named the HMS Beagle. Or the person who named walkie-talkies. I bet that was a grown man. If he had to name night socks, he might have called them night feeties. Or the person who named what I'm about to talk about. It's a stunning creature. It's beautiful. It's elegant. You find it in bright colors: orange, blue, green, pink, black, silver, white, gold, perfectly symmetrical. It does not taste like butter. It doesn't melt like butter. It's certainly not as disgusting as a fly. I can see Lynn doesn't like flies the way she does. Even in its green form, it still doesn't look like a fly. Why would you call it a butterfly? I have a 9-year-old, so I get to watch a lot of cartoons, anime. In my mind, the butterfly would have been the very first transformer, before Bumblebee even came along. If I had to pick what to call a butterfly, because of the beautiful process it goes through, that would have been my transformer. Not a fly that looks like butter. Thank you.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, Darwin moved out of his original field of training into natural science. So I'll ask Jerome if you will join me here in front of this. And we'll ask Jerome Sullivan to tell us what he's doing outside of his field of study. Jerome.
Good morning, everyone. My current field of study is computer science. What am I doing outside of that? As intriguing and interesting as it is, one would question, why does one need to study anything outside? that field of study. As you all demonstrated this morning, those of you who gave your book reviews, the insights you've gained over time, all of these outside your field of study. And I'm sure that you can agree it's enhanced and possibly even improved certain areas of your field of study. It makes me think of that athlete who trains for the marathons or the track events. They don't solely just focus on running. They have to do some squats, some lunges, maybe some swimming, anything that would complement the main focus. So I think for me, outside of my field of study relates to my personal growth as a leader and how I impact people, how I can affect their lives positively. And it's so important, like how we all affect each other's lives here this morning. I made a good experience with Renee, with one of the first initial quote that she gave in her speech, where she spoke about how the same situation is repeated in different versions until we learn that valuable lesson. And hence reinforcing and re-emphasizing the importance of studying outside your field of study, so that you don't become just blinkered and focus on this and that tunnel vision, and cultivate a tunnel vision thinking approach to life, but also just learn from those around you. And like we all learn from each other here. Another reason why this forum is so positive and great for our personal growth and development. So for me, my field of study is anything that enriches my life, that allows me to add value to myself, and likewise to all those around me. I can honestly say I've had that experience here with you and also elsewhere. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Jerome. Now, as I mentioned, Darwin, one of his fields of study before he went on the Beagle was theology. However, as he encountered the evidence for evolution, as he took this long trip, and as he collected specimens and sent them back home to Britain, he became convinced that he needed to change his thinking. And so I'm going to ask Lucinda, please, to join me at the front. Lucinda Harmon will tell us about an idea of hers that's changed over time. Lucinda.
Thank you. Thank you, Head Topics Master and fellow Toastmasters. One thing I've learned in my life is that you are the master of your own destiny. Change is always possible. There is nothing called I'm too old, or things are too futile, or there's no possibility of you ever being able to transcend your current circumstances. If I take you back in my life 3 years ago, I'd literally moved into a life of isolation. I was in Bloemfontein. I was running away because I couldn't take any more. It was like I became a magnet for drama and negativity around me. I was miserable, I was sick, and I was searching. I searched in many spiritual practices. I'd been to doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and even on the highest medication, nothing was helping me. I was stuck in my own prison that I created. My abuse from my childhood had finally caught up with me. It wasn't the damage of what had happened on the outside, it was what I'd started perpetuating on the inside of my life. And I was hurting myself. I eventually was my own worst enemy. And I worked out the very, very key to coming out of it, is I had to go within and find self-love and acceptance within, self-forgiveness for myself. And that was the way I freed myself from this prison that I had created. And in so doing, I rose and transcended like a phoenix from my own ashes. And today, I'm proud enough to know that I help, assist, and guide women the world over with 2 of my groups, Hidden Voices and Voice Your Power. It's really giving them hope and showing them a light, like a torch bearer that I do. And I guide them, showing them the gift
and the way to find peace and to find their power and to stand back from being finished, from being silenced, from being nothing, and to be an exceptional human they're meant to be, and to be a voice for other women and give them courage to stand too. You have the choice, and you are the master of your own destiny. It's what will you do about it?
Thanks, Lucinda. Very inspiring. Okay. Darwin's theory of evolution was at the time, there's a book written on it which has the title Darwin's Dangerous Idea. I'm going to ask Adrian to join me at front, please. Adrian Hind will tell us his dangerous idea.
Okay. The first thing when Rick gave me this, I thought, what was Darwin's dangerous idea? And I haven't sort of read the book that Rick's mentioned, but I get the impression it's dark and dangerous. The idea is dark and dangerous because it's not the gentle and kind that survive. It's the harsh and horrible that actually survive. Now, thinking in my own personal life, you know, when I was younger, so much younger than today, I didn't really I was involved in mining, mineral processing. I would go underground, I would sweat, I would install instrumentation for measuring rock mechanics, all sorts of things. But now that I'm older, but I find myself in a state where I've retired from the mining industry, but now I'm getting back into it again. Now, I've been doing a project related to operation in the Congo. And you know, the Congo is supposed to be a dangerous place. So I have this fear. Well, what can happen to me if I actually go there? But I have yellow fever jabs, anti-malaria and everything else there. So I do have this fear. And how can I sort of conquer this fear? And I have this little mantra. I am a sort of spiritual person to have sort of beliefs. I have this little mantra. From fear to faith, from fear to faith. I sort of repeat it to myself many times. So let's see what happens there. But that's the fear, that's the danger that I'm having to face. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm always humbled by the way our speakers are willing to share of themselves when they stand up front. Completely exposed among people that they don't really know, and that they're willing to give so much of themselves, their fears, their hopes, their ambitions, their achievements. Thank you. Our last table topic comes with the following introduction. The theory of evolution was, to say the least, controversial when it was introduced. And Darwin was mocked, lampooned. There are cartoons still in existence showing Darwin as a monkey. And one of his contemporaries came to his defense and said, I would rather be, and of course this was now in contradiction to the biblical theory that we're created as divine and we're not related to other creatures and so on. So one of his contemporaries came to his defense and said, I would rather be a rising ape than a fallen angel. So I'd like Susan to join me at the front, please. Susan Hoyda will tell us whether she would rather be a rising ape or a falling angel, and why.
So when Rick told me the topic, I had a flash in my mind of that movie, and I cannot remember the title, but she's taken that blue substance and it gives her that kind of experience of everything. Lucy, thank you. So in Lucy, she is about to be disintegrated and moves into being oneness with everything, and then she has a flash from all the history of humankind, from the apes all the way to as she's becoming one. And so now I had to ponder quickly. So I thought to myself, well, ape is very much a thing of the matter. It's a body. It's got a body. While an angel is spirit with no body. And so, am I going to choose this or am I going to choose that? I do love the body, but I also love the spirit. And so, I remember that when my two grandchildren were born, they are twins, and they came a month early, and they had to be in ICU, sedated. So I never saw their eyes or anything for a month. But I was very fortunate because they came to stay with me, or the whole family came. So when they finally arrived in the house, and their eyes opened for the very first time, there was an angel. And there was an unequivocal angel, and I never forget that. And it was just the most wonderful experience. And then they started growing up, and here comes a little bit of an ape, can't stand up, trying to be holding, and there was an ape, and I said, oh, this is so wonderful. And so, which one would I really choose? I'm pulled this way and I'm pulled that way. But when I look at my grandchildren, my conclusion is that we go from an angel to an ape, and basically we are always rising and continually falling. And that would be both, and that would be my evolution.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our table topics, and now it is your turn. You should still have the remains of your ballot form in front of you. Please vote for who you believe was the best table topic speaker. We had, first of all, Charlotte Buchnout. What would you like to be remembered for 210 years after your birth? Dino Lupini, about his travels on his cruise. Tom Bugomu, about the misnamed butterfly. Jerome Sullivan, what are you studying outside your current field? Lucinda Harmon, about an idea that changed due to the evidence. Adrian, telling us about his dangerous idea, or the idea that fills him with dread. And Susan, who isn't sure whether she'd like to be a falling angel or a rising ape. Want to go? And our assistants will come around and collect your ballot. Postmaster, I believe that concludes my Thank you, Rick, for a great session. Let's give you This is my wrap-up session. Last word on banners
Anybody think of any well-known banners around the world?
Italian flag.
Well, it's one that's even more well-known. It's called the Star-Spangled Banner. Star-Spangled Banner. Which of course is the flag of the United States, and they've even got their anthem named after that. Another very well-known banner is, heard of the Jolly Roger, skull and crossbones, used by pirates. And you said pilots. Yeah, keep quiet, I'm saying the wrong word all the time.
And the Italian flag of war.
What does it look like?
It's white.
Someone's going to have you. Of course, nowadays we have web banners as well. And so whether it's a physical or a digital banner, be sure that it's something that you can either identify with, but it advertises what people want. And so it is with our Toastmasters banner. Hopefully it's something that we can identify with, that represents us. And best of all, when we have Toastmasters visitors who are emissaries, now they can no longer put on their, this club must get a banner, because now we have
Yeah.
You can put a lot of other things, but you can't put about the banner. That ends my assignment for the day, and I'm very happy to hand back to our president for the day, Tam. Please welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, also known as Horrible Harold. I learned that from you, and you must learn from your elders.
I noticed you changed the name very quickly after you.
I didn't want to be a moron anymore. You said I was good at oxymorons. But thank you to our Toastmaster for a wonderful morning, well led. I would like to call on our grammarian to give us the grammarian's report for the morning. How did we do this morning?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Should I come there?
If you would like, yes. I'd like to call on Annika.
I'll give a grammarian report and on what I've observed. This is my own observation. And from the level of the level of the grammar that I'm on. The book reviews were educating and invigorating. And you want to learn more? You've got to teach more. So you learn to summarize it. 200 pages, book 2, presented in 3 minutes. Presentations used powerful words, rich words and phrases and quotes. And our senior citizens used idioms and metaphors. And I liked the following words: full of himself, enormous and tremendous, venture capitalist, meritocracy, nutshell, impeccable, memoir, bitterly disappointed, quantum leap, contradictory, bloom from within, renewed path curiosity, intelligent mind. I like this one. It means you cannot be, a person does not have to be intelligent. The mind can be intelligent. And mind can be changed from little mind to intelligent mind. And I've noticed well uses of affixes, like disintegrated. And in terms of improvement, someone mentioned years and years and years. We can say years ago, and a little bit we can say few. And there was a lot of repeat of preposition in the book. In and out. We can improve on that. And I would like to make a recommendation. This is not part of my role. I was sitting next to Jerome, and he said he's going to read this weekend. Books can be expensive, the hardcover. We can go to PDF Drive, we can download free books there. We can save from YouTube offline, and we can convert on MP3 juice from YouTube, and we can listen to those that are still finding it difficult to read a hard copy. And I liked someone that presented that we need to read fairy tale books. I've never read fairy tale books. And when the presenters were presenting, you could hear that the baby boomers present about wars, and then the millennials and the generations Christ might not have read about wars. It's good, then you will get to learn about idioms and metaphors and the rich use of language. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Grammarian. Do you have a count for us for word of the day? I realized as the meeting was proceeding that the knocking thing was your way of us helping you count.
Yes. I got that. Renee, Karen, Tanya, Judith, Charlotte, Lucinda, Gugu, Adrienne, Rick, Mina, Dino, Kambu, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Grammarian, for your attention to detail and for your advice on reading. I'd now like to call upon our counter, Lynn, for your counters report.
I'm just going to stand here if you don't mind. Thank you. I don't know if it was the supermoon, but outstanding. I wrote very little down. I'm just going to mention a few, and I feel bad to do that actually, because really everybody was phenomenal. Susan, a few so Adrian and Rick and R, Dino, a couple of Anns and so's, Sophie, a like, and and some of the tabletopics I didn't even record because honestly there was so very, very little and less than I've heard in most meetings, so well done, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Alcanta, and well done to everyone in the room and to the supermoon that helped us. I would like to, at this point, thank all the role players for the role they played this morning. We would not be able to have a successful meeting without you volunteering, and it always makes a difference. So thank you very much. And thank you too to everyone who did a book review, to everyone who supported by listening so intently and by encouraging and by clapping, by cheering and laughing when the time came. It's a team effort, and each role that we play, whether we're up at the front or whether we're listening, counts. During the book reviews, I went from feeling like a wild woman running with the wolves to rocking in a corner with a pink fluffy bunny, feeling like I'm dancing on rainbows. And at this point in time, I'm still a little confused with my wolf having a wolf head, a bunny tail, a wolf body, and some bunny legs. But we're getting there. Thank you, Dino, because I realized what I have been doing wrong all this time, why I do not enjoy running, is I have not been running with techies. On a serious note, I noted down a lot of books that I would love to get to and read. So thank you to all of you. I would now like to invite guests that we have, first-time guests, and visitors from other clubs. If you have any words, comments you would like to say about this morning's meeting, maybe I can say to you, if you had to write a banner about this club today, you had to stick something on top of our brand new banner, what would it be?
I would just say awesome.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Well organized.
Bryanston rocks. Always agile.
Yeah.
You remember? I don't care what it says.
Any other visitors, guests?
Members?
All members.
All members, yes.
So your place was wrong.
No success is immediate. Takes time.
Beautiful. Any suggestions?
Timekeeper reports.
Do not do the timekeeper.
There's 22 people. That's what you do.
Yeah, no, I can report on the timekeeping because I was fighting with my cell phone wondering why it was making all these funny noises.
Oh, just one for the banner. Toastmasters so that your toast matters.
I like that one, yeah. No, I started off, everything was working well. In fact, the first two speakers, who were the first two? That was Johan and Rene. Exactly on the dot. And I thought, well, the rest of it's going to be like that. And then I got so tied up with people's speeches there that I got a little bit senior moment. A couple of things happened there. But everybody was in 30 seconds of their allotted time. So thank you, everybody, for keeping reasonably close to time.
Thank you, Adrian. And thank you, Lucinda, for the suggestion.
I was reminded during the break that for our visitors and guests, we need to get everyone a white tag. Let's just make sure we do that, especially over coffee. Just noted.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank
we'll
you
not
very
be
much.
without labels on.
That's quite right. It helps us to be able to engage without calling each other you there. Speaking of names and calling yourself something, thanks to Karen, thanks to Karen, I have my introduction. My name is Tamu, without the knock and the list. Knock Tamu list. And for those that know what time I sleep, that's a very fitting name. I might as well be sleepwalking. Just a few reminders from the club. We do have a speech contest coming up on the 23rd of March. For those of you that have gone beyond your CC6, is that right, Mr. President? And beyond level 2 in Parkways, you would be eligible for the speech contest. And we would encourage you to participate in the speech contest, whether you are contesting or you're coming to support. But should you make it through
CC6, just for the prepared speech.
just for prepared speeches.
Evaluation.
Thank you, Mr. President. For evaluation and table topics, it can be anyone. And I believe the winners would then go through to the next stage and to the area contests. That should be fun. And then we also have coming up our celebration for our 100th meeting. That will be on the 27th of April. So if you could put that in your diaries, we would love to represent the club at a big level and to be here and to celebrate together this huge achievement and to honor our charter members as well. Then we come to, on a point, I think we may have mentioned some things already, but if anyone has anything they would like to say at this point or add. Dina?
I'd just like to add thanks to the people that are organizing these different events that are happening. Like, this is very different. Thanks for coming up with these innovative ideas and meetings. It's really cool. Because a lot of times you can see that we're struggling for prepared speakers, but it's something like this. The reason why you come to Toastmasters is you have to actually get up and present. So by doing this, it gets the people up and shows us, hey, it's actually not too bad. It's really, you were talking about the butterflies earlier. It is hectic, but the more you stand up, the better and easier it gets. So yeah, thanks for the great meetings.
You know, they say, make the butterflies fly in formation.
Try.
Just one thing, Tambu. Anybody who is close to finishing their competent leader manual, you have got an opportunity with the contest to organize the contest, and you can split it between 3 people, and to be the contest chair. And again, it can be 3 people.
Cool, excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned, Tambu, about the 100th celebration that we're going to have, and we're looking for ideas for a banner or logo, sort of one-page thing. So if you've got any ideas that we, how we could express in terms of a logo or banner, please let me or any members of the committee have those ideas.
Thank you, Adrian. There is one other thing that I forgot to remind you of, and that's we're coming up to the renewal period, and to expect an email in your inboxes from Adrian with the invoice for the next 6 months.
Okay. I will start writing invoices. No.
So we're coming to the best time of the morning, which is awards time. Starting with, I think I'm going to have to hand this over to the real president to do the awards. I'm starting to feel inadequate at this point.
Winner of the table topics at a tie, please, drum roll. I'm sure you guessed Ambu and Lucinda. Here you go, ladies. I'll have to hold it in the middle for the photograph. You have to stand next to the new banner.
Cheese, you can look here.
Seeing as you're a member of the club. Carry on. Next award is for the best speaker, which is, in this case, the best book review. We've got 3 places that we decided on. So the The winner will get the trophy and the ribbon, and the other two will get also rand. In third place, also a tie. Drum roll, please. Ambu again, and Charlotte.
Yeah.
You can stand next to me, no problem. Here we go, and there's the photograph.
Look happy.
Got a pen.
In second place, drum roll please. Mina. Congratulations, very well done. Thanks for the photograph. The winner of the trophy today. Anne. Hold that.
Thanks so
Would you like to come down? Please welcome back to
I did warn you earlier that I would be exercising my powers as president and chopping and changing things. And I don't know if you noticed, when I came back the second time, I came back more presidentially dressed. I did notice. For our last award this morning, this is the Genie Award, and it goes to someone who, the president, myself, feels has done a great job, or an exceptional job, or has taken a significant step. And I would this morning like to present this award to someone who is new in Toastmasters, relatively new, who was a visitor for a very long time and found it difficult even to introduce herself, but today took the first significant role in the meeting. I'd like to present this award. Drum roll, please. Poliswa. Fellow Toastmasters, visitors, guests, we've come to the end of our program this morning. Thank you very much for being with us this morning, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Would you like to say she's bossy too now?
Is it please? Okay, cool. 03 263 2913. John. Your award that you won was best book yesterday. Yay!
Yeah, thank you.
How will we know when you're there?
Yeah. We'll meet up for coffee or something.
So you don't come to the meetings?
I'm in short of that. I'm going to put it down. Yeah, I'll take it. I know.